Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to the Parenting Collective. My name is Dr. Andrea Carag and I am a pediatrician. I am one of the co-founding members of the Parenting Collective. We are a group of parent professionals, each one with their own specific professional expertise, let's say. And we decided to group together because, first and foremost, we were friends and we would give each other advice on how to deal with our own children. And so we decided to form the Parenting Collective in which we would give you the advice. Now that it's ECQ, MECQ, and all of us parents are now struggling uh, to learn from each other. And so that's why we decided also to come up with this weekly webinar in which we call it the Practical Parenting. So, on this episode of Practical Parenting, we are going to be demystifying sleep myths. So, our guest lecturer for today is actually one of our co founders. She is very, very close to me. We're very close to one another. She is the ninang of my daughter, and I am the ninang of one of her sons. And we have known each other since grade school. So, can we please welcome into the room Maria Campos-Lopez, our sleep coach and positive parenting expert. Hi,
Hi, Anne.
Marie.
Afternoon. Thanks for that introduction.
So, how are you
Yeah,
today?
very good. I think it's really important that we talk about sleep now. In this pandemic and everyone being home, sleep is getting harder and harder to achieve for both the parents and the children. No, so it's really important that we talk about it now. I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Before we start, can you give, as if we didn't know yet, but then just for our new viewers out there, can you give us a short introduction of yourself?
Thanks, Ant. Okay, so I'm Ria. I'm a mom of two boys. One is 4 and one is 2. I was that sleepless mom with my first child. I didn't know what to do. And I will always quote and I say, I asked Andrea, and what am I going to do? My baby's not sleeping. And her answer was, he's just going to sleep. That's fine. Huh. Okay, while that answer is generally true for most children, we do have children who do need help learning how to sleep. And one of those kids were mine. So I embarked on the sleep training journey with him. And I found that it was quite stressful. And I found out that there was so much to learn about sleep. And that made me really interested in learning. So I got my certification with the Family Sleep Institute in 2018. And I've been talking about sleep ever since. And in line with that, though, just to make cuento, my journey continued with my boys, right? And again, you go from your baby to your toddler, and the tantrums come. And when I did have good sleep, tantrums came in, and then I had to figure out how to marry managing tantrums and bedtime also. So now I love talking, and I learned more. So I love talking about respectful parenting. And to go even further, but we'll talk about that later, even processes like Montessori, RAI, and respectful parenting do encourage independent sleep in terms of attachment parenting. So I think that's one of the things that we'll talk about later.
All right. Thanks for that. Before we continue, let me just plug in that if you guys have any questions, just type it out in the comments. And even if you're catching this at a much later date, we'll get back to you. Just type in your comments and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And so, on that note, yeah, thanks, Ree. I remember giving you that advice. Now, yeah, he'll just sleep it off. Eventually, he'll find his own rhythm because though it was actually in our medical books, this was of course not a focus of our medical training, but you'll be happy to learn that since times are now evolving, it is definitely part of our, I think it is a bigger, like, positive parenting as a whole. And having good sleep is now, I think, more encouraged in learning, or in something that the parents now have to discuss with their patients more now. So I think you were like one of the pioneers for that, and then so good job for that. And I'm really, really thankful that since then you have been there for me to call when I have had patients that have had difficulty sleeping. All
Yeah, and I
right.
understand because as a doctor, you have so much to learn. And so you just learn about how important sleep is, right? You don't learn anymore about how you put your baby to sleep or how families can work on that. So it's good to be working together. we have both, you have a bigger science background, then I have a little bit more information and focus. So, it's really helpful to work together with pediatricians, which I love.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree that it worked out perfectly since then. All right, so let's get to the gist of it. So, for those who are just tuning in, or for those who have not heard of what we do here, what you do at Himbing, so what is sleep training? Can you give us an overview?
Yeah, okay. So sleep training in its general sense just means that your child knows how to sleep independently. Okay, and that's really it. One sentence definition. The reason why I use the term is because it's the popularly known term, but it is also one of, I think, the most controversial ones. No, because the idea of people and sleep training is, and again, this is accepted depending on your parenting style. The idea is you literally leave your child and see them in the morning. No.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So that's why it's a very decisive term. It brings up different feelings. Because as a parent, we know our role is to be helping our child. And then the term sleep training sort of goes against it, where we say, okay, just leave them, they're fine. So it's hard to marry those two things in your head. But really, at its bottom line, it's not even about the process. It's really just saying that, okay, your child knows how to sleep.
Oh,
So,
okay. So that at
yeah.
least that's sort of clear. But you mentioned crying it out. So is that the same thing? Sleep training and then crying it out. So what is crying it out?
Okay,
And
so those are two different things actually. Sleep training is the term that we talked about. Crying it out is a method of sleep training. It is not the be all and end all of sleep training. And a lot of
oh,
people think that's what it is. So sleep training has, I would say, maybe like different ranges. They call it gentle methods all the way up to cry it out. And I guess cry it out again is the popularly known term wherein you do leave your child again at a certain age when it's age appropriate, and you literally say goodnight, anak, I'll see you in the morning. And regardless of the crying, then you do leave them.
okay.
And that is a very scary idea for a lot of parents. And that's also what I thought in the start, only to find out, and maybe I'll jump the gun a little bit, but that's really one of the biggest sleep myths or sleep training myths, that it's only cry it out, and that's the only way my child is going to learn. So, and then people correlate this to abandonment. I don't know if
Oh,
you
no.
know that.
Okay.
You know that study of the Romanian orphanage where they said babies don't cry anymore, um, because they were not responded to. That is what people compare sleep training to. But in reality, that study, although it's true, doesn't have to do with just sleep training. That had to do with the child literally not being minded the whole day, whether hungry, diaper change, or sleep. So
Oh,
again, it's
that's
in
so
the
sad.
extreme. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's really a sad case, but I bring it up because that's what people automatically answer when you talk about sleep training. They automatically equate it to abandonment. And again, when in truth and in fact, sleep has so many elements. Sleep has to do with schedule, has to do with routine, and it really has a lot to do with the parent guiding the child through the process. So in no case, or at least in my style or in my process now, in no way do I ever tell a parent, please leave your child.
Okay, that's
Uh,
so good to know because I don't think that would be something that even though I consider myself a kind of strict parent, I don't think I'd ever allow that for my child. So,
yeah,
what can you say would be like the common myths that you hear about sleep training? Like, I'm sure having them cry it out is one of them. Can you like name a few
yes.
more?
That's actually the biggest one. Abandonment and cry it out is what is equated to sleep training. And again, in truth and in fact, well, okay, in truth, it could be. But depending on how you practice it and how well you research it, it's not. Another one is that if I do sleep training, then I lose my sense of attachment parenting or I lose my bond with my child. So a lot of people are worried about placing the baby even in the crib or even in another room because they feel like there's no connection anymore, right? Because obviously my baby is teeny tiny. I need to help them. I need them with me all the time. Okay, so that is that I will say that that is true for your baby to be with you all the time. Maybe for the first 4 to 8 weeks of life,
Okay.
after which, when it is age appropriate, allowing them to sleep in their crib or in another room has nothing to do with that attachment bond. Because again, if you do sleep training properly, or I call it already at this point sleep learning, if you do it properly, you are with your child every step of the way until they fall asleep, and you get them immediately if they need help. It's just now a matter of managing your reaction and your help. So there is always that attachment, there is always that bond, and that's why respectful parenting and Montessori really comes into play. And I love talking about Rai and Montessori because they foster independence, right? So getting your child to sleep independently is a good element, but again, also both theories do mean that your child is still connected to you in a secure attachment, meaning they know that if they need help, you will come. Does it make sense? That
Yes, it
if
does.
right, so you have to really think of sleep learning and independent sleep. It's really teamwork. It is the parent setting up the environment and the child understanding that okay, I can sleep on my own, but if I need help, mom or dad will come and help me at any point. So
Oh,
does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
because definitely, so well, I always hear you say in our talks that you're setting up your child for success, and
Yes, correct.
yeah. So as we set up our children for success, like if we're preparing them, is there a certain are there certain things that we can look out for, like sleep preparedness? Is there such a thing? Did I create that term out of the blue? Is there a proper age for sleep training? Sleep
Yeah, well,
prepared.
no, yeah, that's a correct question. Sleep training, again, in its strict sense, really depends again on the age of your child, their weight, and their development. So
Oh,
when
the
we talk about sleep training in general terms, if your baby is healthy, born on or after their estimated due date, no health issues, weight is good, everything's on the chart, then you start approximately at about 16 weeks, so 4 months. And
okay.
then anything earlier than that is just establishing a good routine and healthy habits. You can start from day one. So in my experience with Francisco, my second, from day one, he was in the crib next to me. I was just up every 2 hours, same as every parent. But I also naturally followed his cues, and he was sleeping through the night at maybe between 6 to 8 months. But I'm working with a very good friend now, and her baby, again, healthy, fine, no problem, at 4 months is sleeping through the night. So
Yes.
it is following the child, getting clearance from your pedia, asking how to balance. Oh, sorry, let's go back. That's another sleep myth. You can sleep train, exclusively breastfeed, and feed at night. You don't have to automatically drop night feedings. So that's
Okay.
very important. It's still following the child and following the advice of your pedia.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Because maybe a good 60% of my the mothers that I that the mothers of my patients are exclusively breastfeeding. So that's usually a big concern of theirs, that can it be done while they're still breastfeeding?
Yeah.
So there. So I think that might have been on my part, that might have been the
Big
biggest thing to
question.
out for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sorry, while you bring up breastfeeding, it's breastfeeding month now, right? So
Yes, yeah.
again, I encourage breastfeeding. You yourself are also an advocate for breastfeeding, so it
That's
really
right.
does go together. You can exclusively breastfeed, no problem, no worries about stopping, because again, that's a concern. A lot of moms say, "I'll hold off sleep until I wean," no? But again, in doing that, your baby's health might suffer in terms of at a certain age, they need sleep. They need to sleep through the night if they're healthy, right? So
That's
you
true.
breastfeed
Yes. Sleep is
during the
very
day,
important.
right? You breastfeed during the day, you just schedule it properly at night. And then life continues both with sleep and healthy eating or healthy breastfeeding.
Well, yeah. On that note, your for the parents who are listening, your pediatrician will easily give you will be able to at least give you a schedule on how long your child should be sleeping at night, and then how frequent the breastfeeding should be. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask us. But if you already have a pediatrician, you can always ask them, and they will be happy to discuss that information with you. Okay, so if there are no other sleeping myths, so when we do go into sleep training or sleep learning, so um, what do you call this? Do we train the baby itself, herself, then himself?
Yeah, that is actually very important. As a sleep consultant, I don't actually work with the baby at all.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people ask me if I can come over to their house and meet their child and check the environment. As much as I love meeting babies, it's not necessary at all. Really work with the parent. So that is one of the favorite things I like to say as well. We are not training our babies, we're training our parents. We're training the families. We're figuring out how to set, and again, Andrea said this already, how to set up our child for success, how our babies can sleep better really depends a lot on the parents' attitude and willingness to learn. And again, it's all learning because, parenting, and this is why we do the parenting collective. No one is born a perfect parent. Actually, we don't have any parenting lessons. So we learn as we go along, right? And so prioritizing sleep and fixing the schedule and all of these things that have to do with the wonderful world of sleep is learned by the parents and then executed by them.
Okay, so that's good to know. No, because I'm sure, because that might be one of the myths also, is that as a sleep trainer, a sleep coach, that you would be the one with the baby itself. So,
Yes,
but it's nice to know that it's actually because since it's the parents who are supposed to be putting their children to sleep, yeah, so it's the parents actually that will be doing the learning and imparting
yes,
this knowledge onto the children, right? Or to the
correct.
babies. So,
Yep.
so before we go on to another few, so what is the can you though I know the answer to this, so can you give us like what is the importance of good sleep? Like let's hear it from the sleep coach.
Actually, you should be answering that question, and go ahead. Let's put you on the spot.
Well, off the top of my head, aside from being having a just personally having a
Yeah.
wonderful night's sleep and waking up relaxed the next morning, they have for children. Sleep is always the time that it resets the brain. So, uh, immunity wise, it is when the immune system resets. So if you don't get enough sleep, your immune system goes down. If you don't get enough sleep, you're stressed. So a lot of stress hormones come out. Stress hormones come out, your immunity goes down as well. So other things like memory. So for sleep, you have enhanced. Obviously, anything that you learn is enhanced more if you get a proper night's sleep. It is basically like when you're typing in a Word document and you want, and then it's when you sleep, that's when you press save. So if you don't press save, if you don't sleep, it's like you just turned off the computer and then everything can
That's
just
a really
disappear.
good analogy, huh?
So that was, yeah, that
Yeah.
was the most basic analogy I came up with, but that's true. So even
Yeah.
for adults, when you're studying for a test, always go to sleep as much as you can, or within the at least get the recommended amount of time so that you can at least retain the information that you got. And
Yeah.
then so during your test, you'll be able to recall certain things, so the things that you learn. So same with babies, so they're constantly learning. So what we want for them is to be able to sleep properly so that they will retain that information. And there's one more thing. Yes, growth hormone, guys, is only secreted during deep sleep. So it is
Correct.
true, yung mga pamahiin dyan ng mga lola, pag hindi daw natulog yung mga bata, hindi daw tatangkad yung bata. So to a degree, yeah, no, this is true because growth hormone is only released during deep sleep. So it is best for them to get not just a long night's sleep, but a deep sleep as well. So establishing a good sleep routine is definitely crucial for all of this.
Yeah. And I guess just to help contextualize about sleep, always go back to the adult. So, parents listening, how do you feel when you don't get a good night's sleep, right? You're cranky, your brain is sort of fuzzy, you're very short-tempered, you get angry easily, you get frustrated. You forget what you're supposed to do, and you're sort of just in a weird daze. And even though you're exhausted, you can't rest, no? So exactly like that for our babies. If you imagine that that's how you feel with sleep deprivation, that is how our babies feel as well. So sometimes I always get comments about cranky babies or difficult babies. I'm also here to say that again, there is no such thing as a bad child, right? There's just behavior we don't like. But all our children are good children. All our babies are actually good babies. And if we put it in our head that they're difficult or they're sungit or they're cranky or they're high maintenance, no?
Oh
To
yeah.
some extent, there are some babies that are. I mean, let's just be honest. On the spectrum, of course, there are babies with sensory needs, different issues. But again, talking about the general typical child, I usually say that all of these things will go away if you get them to sleep properly and you get them to sleep long enough. So I think that's really very important. Aside from what Andrea said, the and again, our mental and emotional well-being as parents is so much better when we sleep too.
Okay. Since it's breastfeeding month, we might as well plug in that for those struggling to breastfeed, always remember that breast milk is made mostly when the mother is asleep. So remember,
Yes.
mothers, lack sleep, and you're complaining that you don't have breast milk, that might be the number one cause. So
Yeah.
that's what you actually need to get what do you call this, a good night's sleep, which I understand is very hard because I too breastfed my child in grade
Yeah.
school, in residency. So that is
Yeah.
it's loads more
Yeah.
task.
A little bit off tangent, but of course, breastfeeding is again something else that we make a decision to do. So it is not easy, right? It's a difficult task, but one which is rewarding and fulfilling as well. So it's just a balance of figuring out how to get your partners or how to get someone in your house to help outside breastfeeding time so that mom gets some sleep time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't mention before, but then you are certified, right? So
Yes.
you have certification. You did certification training for your sleep coaching. But as a sleep coach, what would you recommend also to other parents? Parang what should they be looking for in someone to help them with their child's sleeping problems?
Yeah. So if you are looking for help with sleep, which again is, I always say, please ask for help if you can't figure out or if your pedia can't answer you because they're too busy, which is fine. Find someone who can help you. I am one. There are many sleep consultants actually, if you look. But what I want to say is when you do look for a sleep consultant, it's like finding your therapist or your pedia or your personal doctor. Please do your due diligence and ask them maybe where they studied, what they believe in, what their parenting philosophies are, because it's sort of like having to entrust them with a little bit of yourself. And of course, admitting that you need help is very difficult, no? But we all need help. So, again, a lot of consultants offer a few minutes for a call beforehand. Get to know them, ask your questions, same. And if you're comfortable with them, then yes, get that expert help. Find someone who has your parenting philosophy in mind, someone who will maybe hold your hand. And like I said, each family has different needs. So some families might like hand holding, some families might like someone to dictate it to them. And there are all these different people out there. So, just again, ask your questions and go with who you're comfortable with. Aside from the basic check certification, check how long they've been doing it, ask for referrals, um, you know. But yeah, that's really where you would start, no?
So basically, it's like looking for a friend that you can call out to. That you can call.
Actually, that's really true. Because in the first 2 weeks of sleep training or sleep learning, it is very difficult. There is a change in schedule, there is a change in everyone's temperament at home, there is a lot of learning. So everyone is tired, especially the baby. So you need to find someone who you can talk to, and who you can, yes, exactly that, lean on. And I just wanted to say, I am very thankful for the last 2 years. I've made so many new friends. Aside from my clients are now almost all my friends. I still follow up on their kids. I love seeing their milestones. And again, it's like any great relationship that you have, even with your pedia, right? If your pedia or your therapist is genuinely interested in your well being, then the whole relationship is really great from start to end.
Okay. So, again, for those who are just tuning in, welcome to the Parenting Collective. And we're doing today what we call Demystifying Sleep Myths with our one of our co founders, Maria Campos-Lopez, who is our sleep coach and our positive parenting expert. So, we actually do have phone in questions. Toot, toot, toot. Okay, there. So, what mindset should parents who are interested must have? Is there like, do they have to be in the zone or?
Yeah, that's a really good question, also. And that's one of the most frequently asked questions. First, the parent has to have the mindset that, yes, I'm going to do this. It takes dedication, it takes some commitment, and it takes a lot of consistency. And again, Rafi in the background, our psychologist, that's one of his favorite words. And whenever we give a talk, if we made it a drinking game, we'd both be passed out every time someone mentions consistency. So the parent has to be able to put aside some time. So some time, and the mindset that my child can learn. Because a lot of the time when parents come to me, they are desperate for sleep. Their child has not slept through the night. So it actually sounds like sales talk when I say, no, no, they can sleep for 11 to 12 hours. And they're like, are you kidding me? Right? It's never happened. My baby has not slept, whatever, X amount, has always slept on me, has always done this. And you know what? The thing is, we have to believe our child can do it, and we have to believe that we can do it as well. So I think the mindset that we need is really confidence, and to get there, it's really observing our child, knowing their limits, and actually also knowing our personal limits, right? Like, do I have, so let's just say for the working mom, which is typical, do I have many projects this week? Am I worried about something else? So if you are worried about other things, especially in this pandemic, health, finances, and all these things, then I would say it's not the time to start. But on the flip side, because everyone is home now, if everyone is home, let's say your partner is working from home and has time to maybe help during the day a little bit so you can rest, then it's actually also a perfect time to start. So yeah, mindset is everything. And again, it's that mind shift from, I'm not forcing my child to do anything. We can't force our children to do anything, right? Like, Ans, if I tell you go to sleep now, Ans, like now while I'm talking, um, right? It doesn't work. And I think maybe that's another thing. That's what people think about babies and sleep. If I say, anak, sleep na, they should like sleep like that. But again,
Oh,
it doesn't happen, right?
it
Realistically,
doesn't
we
happen
think,
until they're 7 or 10. No, I think in general, babies, children, they really will try to push it. Like this little girl
yeah,
over here. Like I don't know how many times I tell her throughout the window period that I have for her to sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Please go to sleep. Please go to sleep. No, it's an ongoing battle. So you
yeah.
have to prepare yourself for that. I think for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so let's just segue a little bit to positive parenting and your parenting toolkit, right? So if you know that that is one of the things you'll have a hard time with as the parent, we can't lose our cool at that point, because then that will end up to screaming, shouting, or what I always do it with babies. You always do this, please, please sleep na, or
Kulang
can you sleep? Can you sleep? Can you sleep? Right? It's one of two. It's a little bit angry, or it's a little bit pleading. And you know, when we do that, we again are going against the principles of sleep, that it should be nice, relaxing, calm, something that parents and baby should both enjoy. And we have to get back there. So the mindset is it is going to be difficult because it's breaking a habit. It's changing a habit. No one likes change. I'm the number one example. I'm set in my ways, right? But like anything, when anytime you're implementing something new, the first few days are the hardest. It gets a little better until we get to where we want to be. No?
Okay, I'd like to also point out that if you're not the only adult in the household or you're not the only caregiver in the household, that I think all of you have to have roughly the same mindset.
Correct.
Because definitely, so if you have in-laws or if your parents are also with you taking care of the child, or if you're going to take turns, all of you have to be on board with the
Correct.
training. Yes, because this
Yeah.
also happens to be a problem that I have with food training. So
Mm,
food training, or in general, just plain how the child is reared, you
yep.
generally have to have the same mindset as everyone else taking care of the child, because the moment there's conflict, yeah, I think the term
Mm-hmm.
is conflict. The moment there's conflict and the child can feel that stress, right, and then it becomes a real problem. I think there's more stress also on the child as they're growing
Correct.
up.
Yeah. And as that stress happens, the learning process also slows down. So same, I guess, as adults, when someone's pressuring you to do something or to learn or breathing down your neck, you tend to get stressed. You tend to not, I will say, do well, right? Because they're like, do it. You have to learn. You have to learn. You have to do this. But if you come up again with that okay, everyone at home is like, okay, we're gonna focus on schedule today. We're gonna focus on routine. Let's all do the same thing. No one will get mad. Yeah, that's really it. And that's actually answering the question that Rafi's posted for us. Quick tips that we can practice before starting sleep training. Talk to everyone at home
Yeah.
and get everyone on board. And again, we want to present it logically. So, like I said, there's so many myths about sleep training. I didn't even, I guess, break the iceberg. We just hit the tip. But if I talk about everything else, then I'll be talking until tomorrow. Um, so, it's really that. And again, it goes back to mindset. And I just wanted to say something that I posted the other day, and maybe Ans, you can testify to this also. As a parent, you get so many conflicting things, right? If I sleep train, I'm a bad mom. If I don't sleep train, I'm a bad mom. So
So where do you fit in?
yeah,
You have
right. It's, I mean, everything we do, there's always going to be pros and cons for anything that we choose to do. Let's even go into breastfeeding. So you breastfeed for 2 years. I want to wean now, but why? It's no problem. Then you have someone breastfeeding their 5-year-old, and you're like, but why? And you're never gonna win.
guys. So so a tip for all the new moms: there's always going to be someone older, or not even older. There's always going to be someone's going to make contra what you're going to do.
Yes.
So if you believe to from the bottom of your heart, or that you're doing the right thing, just shoot for it and ignore them. Or what is your tip, Rhea, for the older generation? Just say opo, and then just do.
Yeah, opo, and then just continue with what you're doing and do what you want to do. Because you know, and I think this goes for everything. Being a parent is very personal. No, it's your family. You're raising your family. So even talking about sleep and sleep habits. Okay, so I just want to say I do advocate for safe sleep. So when I talk about sharing a room, I talk about a baby in a crib or your other children in another bed, but you're in the same room. Okay, so that's one opinion, right? That family should stay together. That's fine. Another opinion is that, oh, okay, a child should have their own room for whatever reason, because they need to be independent, because parents need their space, whatever your philosophy is. And at whatever age you decide to either transition to a room or room sharing or whatever, you will also get that feedback na, you're still sharing a room? Your baby's in another room? And, it just,
Yes. There's a
Yeah.
never-ending cycle, yeah, of this,
So
yeah.
again, it will just keep going around and around. So the first thing is, again, do your research. Decide on what values are important to you. Your child's sleep, your child's health. Maybe, and I'm gonna say this: a parent's lack of sleep doesn't necessarily make you a good parent. It actually makes you,
Ah,
I would say, a worse parent.
irate
Diba?
parent.
Yeah, that's a good answer also. So I think that's one that you really have to think about well. That, again, any move you make as a parent is going to have a comment. So you have to be firm in your decision. Firm, it's you and your partner who are making the decisions for your family and for your child. So that is very important. Um, yeah, so that's where you would start. You would start also, again, if you would like, to consult your pedia, so to make sure that your child is the right height and weight, and all things are typically progressing. Milestones are important. Assess your schedule and your readiness. And the last answer is, give me a call. Let me know if you have any questions that will help you. I'm more than happy to answer those things, because one of the things that I realized about sleep is not a lot of people talk about it. No, people
No.
again assume that it just happens. And again, if you're lucky, and again, I have friends who are very lucky, who have babies who, from after a certain age, just sleep with no problem. I have friends whose babies sleep anywhere. Or maybe I'm very lucky. I always use Lou, my husband, as an example. He sleeps anywhere.
That's
He
I
sleeps anywhere. He sleeps through everything, right? So, okay. But again, each child is different. So if your child has a difficult time sleeping, please don't label your child as a difficult sleeper. Please do some investigation to find out why. And then we work forward from there. And we have a question.
yeah, sige. So,
Yeah.
from Cats, hi Cats. She says that she's currently breastfeeding her baby who is now turning 10 months this month. So she has been breastfed to sleep and they want to change her schedule so that she can be able to sleep without the need for breastfeeding or to use her as a pacifier. So she's also worried because she might get caries because of milk retention. So is it too late to train her? This is a 10-month-old child.
Yeah. Hi, Kat. Thank you so much for your question. First of all, I want to say you are totally not alone in the breastfeeding to sleep problem. When I say problem, again, it's not a problem until it's a problem, right? Like it's negatively affecting you, but you can already see you're concerned about being a human pacifier and cavities, no? And these are very important things. So if you're looking to make a change, no, it's never too late. I work with children up until 4 or 5 years old. I was just telling Andrea that I'm even looking into adult sleep as well. Hopefully, we'll have a module with Rafi and Andrea on that soon, because even adults are having a hard time sleeping. But to quickly answer your question, yes, you can definitely change your schedule. Again, it is a matter of timing, feeding, and sleeping. So it is incorporating breastfeeding into your daily schedule and the correct amount of sleep for your 10-month-old. And again, like I said earlier, there is a learning curve because that's the only thing that your child knows. So if you talk to her, and again, it's never too early to talk to our babies, right? We talk to them from day one as if they understand, because they do. So you just tell her, anak, in a few days, we're gonna change your schedule. We're gonna do this, and then you can look up different ways of sleep training, because again, I said there's a spectrum. So there's many ways. You can either read it up, there's a lot of things, or again, sorry, I'm going to plug, you can set a consult with me to help answer all your questions, and then you just go for it. And when I say go for it, when you're 110% ready, which you can be with a little bit of research, it will work, and it will be great, really. The hard work will come from you, Cats, and from your partner. And if you're ready, I promise you it will be a success. Your child will sleep through the night, and you will wonder why you didn't do this any earlier.
So
Yeah.
bottom line there is it's never too late, guys. So one of the phone-in questions was there. So how long is a typical sleep training cycle?
Okay,
Is
depending on the age of your child and depending on the readiness of the parent, our child can learn to sleep anywhere between on a good maybe a week to 21 days because remember it's just changing a habit. So if you are very, very consistent, you're going to have the first 3 to 5 days of difficulty. It usually gets better from day 5 to 14. Then it irons out and evens out between days 14 to 21. And then hopefully you're on your way to blissful and peaceful sleep moving forward. But again, let's just take into consideration also some things like developmental leaps and teething, maybe even getting sick depending or vaccine schedule. So sometimes some things throw us off, but we can just get back on track as well.
okay. So basically, so sorry again for those who are just joining us. You are joining again another session of practical parenting, and here we are talking about demystifying sleep myths with our one of our co-founders, Maria Campos-Lopez, our sleep coach and positive parent expert. So if you have any other questions, if you catch this at a later time, just leave the question in the comments, and then we will get back to you as soon as we can. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that has been a very, very informative talk. And I think definitely we have parents out there to whom these myths have definitely been busted. Hopefully, we have been able to impart a lot of information. Basically, also that you don't, I think for me, the most valuable takeaway from this is that you don't have to be puyat. You don't have to be sleep deprived as a parent to be a good parent. So
Yeah.
you, having a good night's sleep for both of you, both parent and child, is our goal. Goal, guys,
Yeah.
life goal.
Yeah, sleeping through the night goals. And sorry, very quickly, if I can talk about pala sleeping through the night. Sorry, I just forgot. And I mentioned it earlier, but when we talk about sleeping through the night, this is also age appropriate and weight dependent. So you can
Yeah.
do sleep training with a younger child at 4 months, for example, and still incorporate 1 or 2 night feeds depending on your pedia's advice. And then as they get older and heavier, you can slowly ease it out as well. So the sleep training process that you use can also be used later on for night weaning. So it's not too early to be strict in terms of independent sleep after 4 months. And then it's never too late also to start.
All right. So let's assume that let's say, for example, I'm a parent with a newborn, and then I she just doesn't sleep. Like the typical scenario I hear from my patients is that this child sleeps 12 midnight, maybe because that's when the parents get home, and then so dun lang natutulog, and then when they usually nagigising yan mga 7, so it's obviously there's obviously a lack of sleep. So as
Yeah.
interested parents, where do I start? So how would I start the sleep learning journey of mine?
Okay, so again, age dependent, and the younger the child is, the more sleep they need, right? So again, a newborn will sleep anywhere between 16 to 18 hours in a day, and newborn meaning the first 4 weeks of life, no? Right? So they can sleep, and just to talk about it a little bit, a newborn doesn't have a typical day and night circadian rhythm. So they may be awake more at night, but as long as you're getting all the hours in the day for the first few weeks of life, that is okay. So don't panic yet. I think the point of where a parent should look into is my child sleeping long stretches at night will come anywhere after 12 weeks. So it's age dependent as well. And then between 12 to 16 weeks, the baby naturally develops their circadian rhythm, meaning they know the difference between day and night. And that is when you can practice getting them to sleep longer at night. At that point, they should be sleeping. Again, if weight is okay, they should be sleeping at least one 4 to 6 hour stretch, which is in the evening, meaning anytime between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Yeah.
That- Okay. So, I guess that's it. Basically, well, as a pediatrician, usually when I suggest ka na, if the baby's term, I usually say at 4 months you can start, but usually at around 3 months nga. Like, as per Ria's advice, usually I say you start your routine. So usually you
Yep.
start it off by plotting the times that you want your baby to
Mm-hmm.
sleep. Because and then you adjust to that. Let's say if you're especially if you're working odd hours, you now have to discuss with your partner or whoever else is going to take care of with the child the convenient times for you to be putting your baby to sleep, because that's also important, diba? You have to
Yep.
incorporate the time schedules that you have available. So basically so usually that's what I say, at 3 months set up
Yeah.
your routine
Figure it
so that
out.
at 4 months, yeah, figure it out so that at 4 months that you can start. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agree with that. Yeah. But I'm going to just say something a little bit extra, and is that when we talk about convenient sleep schedule, I do try to tell the families we are following the child's schedule. So even if you're working and even if you come home late, a small sacrifice will have to be made in the first few months of life that our baby has to sleep earlier. So that is something to consider as well.
Ah, yes, because yeah, I have a lot of parents who, after a while, they admit that the reason why their babies sleep a lot later than they should is because they're waiting for the dad to come home from
Yeah.
work, or so that the dad can see the baby. So
Yeah.
again, guys, these are small sacrifices that you can take. The baby will grow, and then you can spend more time with the baby when the babies are awake. But then, if parents are coming home later, and there will be someone to put the baby to sleep at an earlier time, we would definitely suggest to
Yeah.
prioritize babies over waiting for a parent to come home at a much later time. So
Yeah.
there. Okay, so I think that sort of wraps up our talk. Do you have any other quick tips before we go?
None. Well, if they, I do have a lot of information on my Instagram. So if you have any other questions about general things like schedules, what a routine should look like, what sleep should look like at different ages, if you could hop over to himbing.ph on Instagram or himbing on Facebook, the information is there. Our videos have been starting, so I also do videos. Well, this is my first one really about sleep training, but we will have more to come on routine. And Rafi and I were discussing weaning, right? So we
Yes,
will have more information. And of course, if you need anything, just send me a message. I do have a quick FAQ email which can answer many things. Yeah. So thank you. And that's it from me. Rafi, he's here, I think. Does he have a talk coming up? You, Ans.
well, no, I just wanted to plug in. So, guys, don't forget to leave your questions in the comments for this talk, Demystifying Sleep Training, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. You have joined the Parenting Collective. So, don't forget to like and subscribe for more free webinars and to be updated to our Zoom classes. So, that's on Facebook, it's the.parenting.collective FB. On Instagram, it's the.parenting.collective. So just search for it, and then we're there. We have a lot of tips for parents, and a lot of our webinars are up also. We also have a YouTube channel, the Parenting Collective. Yeah, the Parenting Collective. So please take a look at it if you can. All of our webinars are there as well. What else? Oh yes, I forgot to mention that I am the owner of the Pedia Clinic PH. So if you can check that out as well on Facebook and Instagram, it's the Pedia Clinic PH, and then I just post usually pedia advice that sometimes there are questions that parents seem to miss asking during the regular consultation. So I just try to put it up as much there as you can. If you have any questions, you can always message us, and we will try to answer it in the best way as we can as well.
Yeah, sorry, I have pala. Of course, I thought about it so late. I have two things coming up randomly. I have a giveaway with other mompreneurs this month in celebration of breastfeeding. So we'll have a post. Join us there. And also at the end of the month, I'll be part of Mommy Mundo's Expo Mom. So if you want to book a consult
Okay.
or a sleep training plan, you can book through them at the end of the month. We will have, I'm in partnership with Halo. So we will have gift certificates for their store. And of course, if you buy a ticket for Expo Mom, you also get access to their talks. And also, this is why I mentioned it, because our other partner here in the Parent Collective, Nicole, of the Discovery Academy of Innovation, will also be part of Expo Mom. So if you want to check out her classes as well, she'll be there too.
All right. So it sounds like it's going to be a busy end of the month, and then
Yeah.
hopefully we can see you guys there at the tail end of breastfeeding month. For all you breastfeeding mommies out there, please continue breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding until 2 years of age. Sorry, exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and continued breastfeeding up to 2 years, guys. Don't forget that. That is our motto. So again, thank you for joining us here on the Parenting Collective. It is a gloomy Saturday afternoon, and I hope you guys all stay safe. And
Yes. We'll see you next week.
yeah, we'll see you next week. Stay protected, stay healthy, stay safe, guys. And goodbye.